is up, everybody? Welcome back to Mount MoGraph. As always, my name's Matt, and in today's summit, we got Summit 63, actually, I think. And in today's video, we're going to do the high-end network identity. So this is something that you would see on maybe sci-fi or some like action movie network or something. Something that's really high impact, modern, fresh, for a younger crowd. This is what we're going for. So we're going to go over some cool little tricks you can do in After Effects to simplify your workflow and create this complex looking transition that, as always, is kind of easy to actually do. But we're going to cover some stuff we haven't covered before, and actually I had a ton of fun making this little example, so I hope we have a lot of fun with this video. So let's go ahead and just jump into it and watch a little bit of Matrix along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project here. We're going to go with the classic 1920 by 1080, which is just wonderful, and honestly, let's just jump right into it. I'm going to grab the pen tool up here. It doesn't matter what color you have. I have purple by default, but it honestly doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and just draw a nice little slender line that has been dieting for the new year, it looks like. If I can actually draw, let's see. I'll try this again. I did a really bad job, which is kind of embarrassing. First step, I messed up. So we got this nice little shape layer. I'm going to call this top right shape guy. I don't know, the guy was probably unnecessary, but let's hold command and toggle down in here and just set a keyframe on our path so we can get to that property really easy by pressing U for any keyframe properties. So I'm going to scrub forward in time to maybe, I don't know, something like maybe 1 second, just so we give ourselves a little bit of breathing room around here. And this is looking good. So I've got this shape path, and so what we're gonna do first, and this is one of the first couple tricks we're gonna jump into today, is press P for the position property, and we're gonna put a tiny little expression on it to make our animation look like we did more work than we actually are going to do, which is wonderful. So to add an expression, let's hold Option or Alt on your keyboard and click the position stopwatch guy like you'd add a keyframe normally. And what we're gonna do is type wiggle. And then we're going to do both parentheses, the front and the back, and inside the wiggle, we're going to say, what are we going to say? Let's say 2 and comma 40. So what we're going to say is every second it's doing this movement twice, and the movement is going to be 40 frames difference on the X and 40 frames different on the Y. So let's see what happens. Well, now we have a moderately moving little object, and I didn't do any keyframes other than our very first one. So if I put this 40 up to like 4,000, we're going to see that our X and Y changes, as you can see by this little guy here, are going to be massive. It's actually almost impossible to follow because it's just jumping all over the screen. So it's still making that move twice a second. It's just on a wider scale. So we want to keep that down to 40 so we actually know what we're doing. But if you're interested in playing around with that wiggle, that is what those two little numbers do. So let's press U to see what our keyframe is at, and well, this looks all right. So I'm just going to scrub back in time a little bit, go to my path, and what I'm going to do is slim this down even more, and we're going to go to something that almost looks needle-like, like a really, really slender, like a slash through the screen. So it's going to slash in and then get a little bit chubbier, and I'm actually going to, you can play around totally up to whatever you want. You don't have to follow along exactly. And I'm just going to push it up a little bit. So we now have a little slender guy, and he changes into something a little bit bigger. And what I'm then going to do is scrub back a little bit more and grab the two vertices down here and just drag them up and off the screen. So as this animation plays, it's going to slash in and change really fast. And I actually don't like how fast that changes. So what we're going to do is grab that keyframe, press Command C and Command V to paste it in place. So we're actually saying like just stay on that keyframe a little bit longer basically before we make that change. And actually still don't like that change. So let's go ahead and switch that. I want it to be a little bit more gradual, and this is just once again my personal preference. You can do whatever you want. So I have it slash in, get a little bit bigger, maybe even a little bit quicker than that. And this is just the timing we're going to want is going to be really fast changes, and that's what keeps people engaged for these science fiction movies. So I'm going to scrub forward in time a little bit more and actually pop these two sides out a lot. And we're going to be using this as an alpha matte for a later transition. and it's still not quite poppy enough. So I'm going to actually put some easy ease on these. I'm just going to use this motion tool up here, but now we're going to have a little bit of a pop. Maybe turn this one up a little bit more. And this is just going to be the timing you want, but I want something to be kind of fast. So that's actually looking pretty good. We have kind of bigger changes, and then I'm going to stay on that for a second. So we'll do the trick of grabbing this keyframe and pasting it in place for just a little bit and scrubbing forward. And then I'm going to have this burst to fill the rest of the screen like this. So we have a slash. That looks cool. So this is going to look really, really awesome when we actually get to the transitions. But for this first stage, I really like how that looks. So let's go ahead and actually just duplicate this top right shape guy and rename this bottom left shape. Well, I guess we'll be fair and call this one girl. So bottom left girl. So the first thing we're going to want to do is scrub forward till you have that little needle line that we started on. So right about there looks good. And I'm actually going to grab the path keyframes, all of them, and delete them. And I did this because I want to set some new keyframes. So I'm going to just drag this over here. I want to set new keyframes, but also I don't want to have to retype that wiggle expression because that gets tedious. So I'm going to put the little path over here, the shape girl. I can't believe I named it that. That's kind of sad. Let's set a keyframe right here for our little needle, and we'll see. So I want them to come in at staggered rates. So the first needle comes in, I want to wait a little bit and have the second one come in. So maybe right about there. I'll go back in time and actually just pull these off the screen just like we did before. So we have some kind of like time delay. I guess is what you'd call it. And I'll do the Command C and Command V to paste that needle keyframe before we pop into something a little bit bigger. It'll make sense, I promise. And we'll pop this one out a little bit too. And these don't have to be like perfect shapes or anything, just whatever you think looks good. That's always how motion graphics works anyway. Anything you're happy with, yeah, that's the whole point of making it, I guess, unless you're being paid. Then it's whatever makes the client happy. This is a funny one so far. So anyway, I'm gonna move these keyframes or vertices up over here, and we're gonna see what happens. So that looks pretty cool. I'm gonna once again put some easy ease on it, give it some character, and see. So now the timing is a little bit funky. So let's see. I'm gonna drag this one out, maybe give it a little bit more breathing room. I have that. I don't want them to be hitting at the same time as the big thing. So if you look in at this timeline, some of them were lined up pretty close, and I want them to be like their own person. So there we go. That looks cool. And then I'll hold that for a second. And then right when that one finishes, I will drag this one out to fill the rest of the screen. So we have two little slashes. That's super exciting. This should work for our purpose. So let's save this project. I'll just save it to my desktop as A, and I'll replace that old one. And I'm going to name this composition in my project manager something like Modern Transition. It's very important to capitalize the O there, I guess. And let's create a new composition. So I'm just going to drag my Modern Transition into a new composition just so it's automatically there. In all its glory, and I think at this point we should probably import some footage. So I actually downloaded some Matrix footage earlier because I couldn't think of anything better. Seemed high-tech and along the theme of this network we're making a video for. So I'm going to drop this on our timeline, and as you can see, it's a little bit small, so I'll just scale it up and scrub forward in time. Oh, this is actually a cool little opening frame, so I will keep it. That's great. Let's go ahead and start with what we're going to do with this modern transition. So track mats have a lot of functions. You can use them for luma mats, alpha mats, inverted alpha mats, and tons of other stuff. But what we're going to do for this one is the alpha inverted mat. So what this means is it's taking the inverted, how would I explain this? So basically the purple becomes the transition. So it's going to take away from our video there. So as you can see, it's actually that has become our transition, our modern transition, thus the name. But I want to take this a little bit farther because that's only all right. And what we're going to do is duplicate this matrix footage. So I'm going to do Command D on my keyboard, drag it down to the bottom here. And so now they're sitting at the same spot, and I'm going to make this one no track mat. So we have a normal layer, which I'll just make a little bit opaque for now, or turn the opacity down just so we can see the difference. So the behind layer is the same exact position as our first layer that we're using that transition effect on, which, well, honestly is no good. So in order to make this even cooler, what we're going to do and make it look kind of glitchy and even more interesting is scale up this one that's being affected by the track matte. So I'm going to scale this up even more to something a little bit silly and a little out of place. So you don't want to put it too off. You still want the viewer to be able to see like what's happening, but it can be a little bit distorted. So I scaled this up about 30 or 40% and moved a little bit to the right. And when this transition happens, it's going to be kind of glitchy and going to throw the person off a little bit because it's like, what just happened? So that's my explanation, as bad as that was. And I'm going to scale up this footage or turn the opacity back up on the footage in the back. So now, even just with this very simple bit, I can zoom in a little bit. You're going to see that we now have all these cool little layers going on, and we're going to add to this effect and make it even more interesting. So as these transitions are going, when the second layer starts to be a little bit more visible, what we're going to do is really glitch out the viewer and set a keyframe on the position here and scrub forward in time until the transition is done. So right about there, actually, I might start that other keyframe earlier. I'm going to start it back when the little spikes first come on there. Set a keyframe and turn the easy ease up, give it a good snap. And the easy ease is just your speed in your graph editor. If I go to my speed, let's see. Oh, they're not changing yet. So what we're going to do is on the second keyframe, we're actually going to slide the footage over. So what this is going to do is, as the video plays, you're going to see like this cool little slide, as you can see by this box changing. And the speed, I'm adjusting with these sliders to give it a little bit more of a snap and a little bit more character, which is what easy ease is for. So now as this video plays, we're going to see this weird little slide that happens, and it's going to really start to look very interesting. And so what's really cool about these transitions is when you have these kind of glitchy effects happening fast, you can reuse them super easy just by using a different track matte effect. So what we're going to do is duplicate the modern transition and the matrix footage, or whatever footage you chose. And first, what I'm going to do is scrub forward in time and just find some better footage to work with. This one actually has the position change on there, so I'll delete that and change my track matte here to an alpha matte so I can actually see what we're doing. And I'm going to scale this footage back down because we had scaled it up. So let's scrub forward in time till we're in some kind of different scene or different footage. I guess we'll go to, I bet there's something cool in here. Oh, this looks cool. I'm going to roll with it. So we now have this cool scene we're going to open up on that's totally different than our first one. And since we're using the alpha matte effect, we're actually going to be exposing the image with the purple instead of taking it away with the alpha inverted. So what that means is that if I just stagger this modern transition by holding Alt and pressing page down like 2 or 3 times, it's going to look like it's coming in at a different time. So you're going to start to get all these glitches, and I might even drag this over a little bit more. So now we have, let's see, we'll check it out. Yeah, so we have basically just a ton going on, and this is going to be just personal preference on figuring out how much to do it or what the timing is you want. I might do something about there looks good. So I think that was like 3 keyframes over. And just for this example, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to want to take a little bit more time putting it together. But you can definitely see that you're starting to get a whole bunch of cool video layers happening at once. And you could even stack that effect we just did. So that is how you create just these cool little glitchy transitions. And with that wiggle effect, you're adding a lot of motion that is so subtle, but I think really adds a lot of character to your transitions. So as this is happening, I was thinking if it's a network identity, it'd probably bring up some kind of like little bumper to say like what it is you might be watching. So I thought it'd be cool if we threw in something like that right when this transition is ending. So we have all those cool little layers sliding, and I actually think that looks pretty interesting. But to take it to the next level, what we're going to do is add some text and just some colors and stuff. So just use your text tool, and we're going to type whatever you want. I'm going to type matrix and maybe put this back to a normal spot. Reset that to 0. There we go. So that looks fine to me. I'm going to say matrix reloaded. My kerning is all crazy, or tracking, or whatever it is. There we go. I'll change that a little bit. Change it to regular. What should I do with this? I guess I'll make this text white. I think that's what I did in the example. And that should work out, I hope. Maybe scale it down a little bit. Make Reloaded a little bit smaller. We'll go with a whole Swiss text design or something, I think it's called. And then I'll just move it down like that. And you can actually pop up your title action save thing, which is like the standards for video, and I was pretty close to that, but on some TVs it won't display past this point, so it's good to know where you are. So I'm going to turn that off, and actually what I want is that reloaded layer to be on its own thing. So I'll duplicate that layer and just delete matrix, and then go back to my first one and delete reloaded, so they're actually on separate layers. And now what we're going to do is the second little trick of this video. I hope I'm explaining this stuff well. It's moving a little bit faster than normal, but I think it's a little bit fun to kind of get into things like that. So we're going to grab the rectangle tool and just draw this directly over your matrix object and then hide it. So what I'm going to do is call this one mask. So we're going to use the same mask for two different objects by using something called a set matte effect, which is really nice to use. So if you put the set matte effect on matrix and you set it to the mask effect right here on number 1, copy it and paste it onto reloaded, and then invert that matte, which is kind of what we were doing with these. We're going to be able to use that same mask layer instead of having to draw two to save time and space, which is nice. So I'm going to press P on my keyboard, set a keyframe for both of those, and drag it back in time. So since I know my purple box is sitting right there, I'm going to just drag my matrix object off, and it's only going to be shown where the purple is. And likewise for my reloaded, it's only going to be shown where the purple isn't. So I'm going to drag it into the box, if that makes sense. And then I'll use my easy ease and make a little snap. So it's going to snap out like that. Very exciting. And that is cool. So I might even make that last a little bit longer. And so we're going to use that same effect to do something with some kind of time up here. I think I did for the first one. So let's go ahead, grab our text tool again, Command T on your keyboard. We'll draw some numbers. Let's go with 8 because I did 7 last time. I'm going to do 8 p.m. and I'll just make this 8 giant. Because that's the trendy thing to do these days. So I'll make the 8 huge. I'm going to grab this PM here, and oh wow, I've been doing everything like that. That is very big. I'm going to grab the PM and I'm going to make this little guy up here, and that looks good. And then I will give it a little bit more space over here with the tracking, and that looks cool. Maybe grab this PM and make it even smaller. So that looks good. So they're both kind of aligned to this top line. Nice. So with that scaled up, what I'm going to do is make this a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be perfect. Float it somewhere. And I think we should do a different color. So I'm going to go with a nice, bright, vibrant, techie orange. Orange and white seem to be like the tech thing. So that looks cool. And what we're going to do is use that little set matte trick to make our animation very, very easy. So I'm going to grab a square, draw it over our 8 here, just like that. And I'm going to call this matte 2, I guess. And I will grab the set matte effect and put it onto 8 p.m. and select my matte 1 layer, and then hide the matte 2 layer. Sorry if that got confusing. Set a keyframe on my position for the 8 p.m. and then I'm going to drag back in time a little bit and drag my 8 p.m. off to the side because it's only going to show where the purple is. And then I'm going to duplicate the 8 p.m. layer, press U on my keyboard, and I'm going to actually drag it off to the other side. So we're going to have the PM come in. Actually, I'm going to invert that as well. So we'll go like this. And then you're going to want to make your purple layer. You're going to want to scale that up as well. Sorry, I kind of missed a step. I was getting excited to get to this. So basically, we're going to have the 8 and the PM come in from different sides, just like this. And that's not snappy enough, so let's turn this up to 100. So we have, if you look at our speed graph, we have a really nice snap, just like this. It's very fast and should be a little bit engaging. So let's go ahead and play it and see what it looks like. Nice. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go ahead and actually move the position on these. So if you grab the keyframes and you grab these little vertices right here, you can change them and also their current keyframes to reposition it. And there we are. So that looks cool. And so when I did this, I was like, man, I like the text colors, but it's not like sticking out enough on this scene. So I was thinking just to add even more visual interest to this, if you, or if we rather, we make a little extra path or something. Man, I'm losing my words here. So if I go ahead and just draw a random shape, I think I went with like a diamond before. Yeah, so maybe like a diamond. We'll do a purple diamond, drag this beneath all of our text layers, and we're gonna call this one exciting background. Hold command, toggle down your arrow, set a keyframe on your path, and let's look at when our other keyframes are happening. So grab all your keyframe or your layers, command A, press U to see all of your keyframes, and let's scrub forward to where everything is happening. So right about there, I'm gonna want my path to be fully out. And then I'll scrub back in time and grab my vertice for this exciting path, drag it off screen. So pretty straightforward. We have the little snap on. That looks nice. I'll add some easy ease to it. I'm going to duplicate this exciting background, press U on my keyboard, move these keyframes forward a little bit, and change the end path. So I'm going to actually pull this one up and over a little bit, and what we're going to do is change these modes. I'm going to change the bottom one to something like a multiply effect and turn down the opacity a little bit, pressing T on your keyboard. And on the top one, let's change this to the classic color dodge effect, get some bright colors in there, and also turn down my opacity so we can still see the video beneath it, but it's just highlighted a little bit. So there we go. We now have a ton of stuff happening all of a sudden, which is kind of cool. But it's also very interesting. And when it's all playing very fast, it doesn't look nearly as crazy. Or if you planned it out a little bit better, it would look really cool. And then from there, just to make all the text pop a little bit, throw a glow onto your text layers. And that'll just pop everything out a little bit. And we should be good. So that is the effect basically, and you guys can definitely play with that a bit more and kind of explore what else to do, but that's how you put together kind of like this high-end, high-impact, fresh and interesting network identity. So I hope you guys had fun with the video. As always, my name's Matt from Mount MoGraph. Today was rough, I couldn't find my words, but I hope you still had fun. I'll catch you next time, and peace out. See ya.